Shabbat Shalom, YouTube. This Return the Remnant Ministry. Just wanted to touch base with everyone. Last week, as you know, we've been going through the Revelation series, and I was going to do a study on Revelation chapter 9, but we had the hurricane come through our area. And anyway, due to the things that have been happening the past 7-8 days, I decided today, I titled this video, My Takeaway from the Storm. And I want to, without too much emotion, because I'm really fired up, without too much emotion, go through a timeline and give you just a little bit better understanding of what's going on down here. I know some of my subscribers live in this area and already know what's going on, but I know there's a lot of people who are not in this area that watch this show, watch this channel, and even some that are outside of the country. And so I've got a lot of notes here. I'm going to kind of do this off the cuff. Maybe be a two-part video, I don't know. But I want to give you a little background with this storm. And I also want to tell you a little bit about our situation here up on the mountain where we're at, and some things that we learned, and hopefully we can pass these things on to you guys, and what we thought we did right. I'm going to give you some real-time information about what's going on directly in this area, and also in some of the areas that were the hardest hit. And I'm going to really try and hopefully put in some stories of hope and the resiliency of your American citizen, and how they're stepping up to the plate and delivering big time when the powers that be that are in charge of things in this country have really dropped the ball. And for some of you that know me, I'm going to really try to talk a little bit in code because the algorithms here on YouTube would probably delete this, or I'd get a strike. And really my whole reason for having this channel is to promote teachings from the Word of God. And so I really don't want to lose that, because I feel that's very, very important. So again, I'm going to give you the timeline, our situation then as it happened, and our situation now, kind of what's going on in our area. I can tell you right now, just real quickly, I know we have 3 dead in our county, but I know what you've heard on the news, we're at like 216 dead throughout several states, but I can tell you it is a lot higher than that. And I will get to that when we get to those hardest hit areas. I'm going to talk about, again, the powers that be are not stepping up. Things that you may be hearing is not accurate or true. And I'm also going to share some things, some strange things that are happening around here that we had an issue similar to this over in the Pacific Ocean a year or two ago on an island. And there's certain things that dealt with fire, and this is dealing with water. And hopefully I can say enough that you'll understand without spilling the beans, so to speak, fully. And then I think I'm just going to end with the fact that, we covet your prayers. Please pray for these people that are less fortunate, that have lost everything, that are not getting their $750 FEMA check that everybody thinks they're going to get. I'll get into that too. And I shouldn't have said that word. But if I get into talking about that, I will try not to say that, because I'm very disappointed and upset about it. So anyway, let's get into this. I'm dragging on too long already as it is. So let me give a timeline. So back on September 25th and 26th, we had a storm system that was basically coming southeast from the Ohio Valley, Midwest area into the Appalachian Mountains that dumped a lot of rain. In fact, I think in the area that I'm in, I think I registered 2 to 3 inches of rain. And I say that to say the ground that before the storm came, before the hurricane came, many places had 3 to 5 inches of rain already. In fact, I think Boone already had 6 or 7 inches of rain that had fallen from that system prior to the hurricane coming up through the Gulf and dumping all the rain that it dumped. So we already had saturated ground. Then the hurricane came, and what I think some people don't understand, unless they have lived through it down here, is we're not on the coast. We're not getting the heavy 130 plus mile an hour winds like the Cove in Florida had received, in Pensacola down into Tampa Bay region, in Clearwater and Fort Myers and so on. Those people got hit with high tides, heavy wind. But when it made landfall and it made its way up through Georgia into South Carolina and in North Carolina, it slowed up a little. We were still getting hit with sustained winds of 65 to 70 miles an hour for a little while. And what ended up happening is areas that we all already had 3 to 5 inches of rain. Some people had more. And then on top of that, you're getting dumped 20 inches of rain. And it's one thing to have 20 inches of rain on flat land. It's another when you have 20 inches of rain falling on mountaintops, sinking into creek beds. Those creek beds flow into larger rivers, and those rivers flow into larger river systems. And so what you see in this devastation in all these towns, you saw Asheville underwater, Lake Lure was flooded, Chimney Rock destroyed, Swannanoa destroyed. And what you're seeing is the amount of water, how it crested 6, 7, 12 feet above what it normally is. It would be 6, 7 feet above the bridges, and it washed bridges away. It ripped rail cars apart, if you can believe that. Total towns were wiped away. Houses that were in one town ended up in another town 6 miles away. Just complete and utter devastation. Interstate 40 going near the Tennessee border. Sections of that had fallen into the Pigeon Creek. I believe it's Pigeon River, Pigeon Creek, cutting off any traffic into Tennessee and vice versa. So that major interstate is down. Now, they may have opened up one side, but that's still going to be a huge bottleneck. And so they're redirecting traffic because also I-26, another interstate that comes up from Greenville, Spartanburg. I mean, it goes farther than that, but just in this area, it would go from Greenville, Spartanburg up into Asheville, and from Asheville straight up into the mountains, up into Tennessee. I believe it's Tennessee. And so they've had to redirect traffic to get around that. You have to take Interstate 77, which basically goes through Charlotte up into, I think maybe in Virginia, and then take Interstate 81 like down into Johnson City, and that gets you kind of into Tennessee. So a lot of things, but what I'm trying to get at here is in that area, in Western North Carolina, we have hundreds upon hundreds of roads that are completely washed away. They're washed away because of the cresting of all the waters, because the saturation of the ground in all of the mudslides. And I'm telling you, there are people that are buried alive in mudslides. There are people who are trapped. And I'm going to get to that. I'm going to get to that in a minute. But I just want to try and set the tone to let people understand the total devastation that we're seeing. And I just don't think on the pre-programmed MSM you're getting that. I don't believe you're getting it as much as what you could be getting it if you were on, say, TikTok or Rumble. Probably not this internet website. Places like that, you're going to get better information. So let's get into our situation. So up here where we're at, in this mountain community that we're at, September 27th, we got hit with the beginning of the hurricane. It was in the morning. It was right around 8 o'clock in the morning, maybe 8:45. We were able to take care of, get our animals taken care of and everything. And then about 8:45 in the morning, we lost power. And I'm going to say this really quick. Praise the Lord that we were only down for a couple days, and we certainly count our blessings. And because there's a lot of people that have nothing right now, they have nothing, and it saddens me greatly that they have nothing, and they're trying to make the most of it. And that's another reason why I wanted to do this video. I'm very fired up about it, and I will be discussing that shortly. So anyway, we had this hurricane that hit us. We were without power, and we did not have power restored again. Let's see, we were down all day Friday, all day Saturday, all day Sunday. And then about 12:05 a.m. Sunday night going into Monday, we had received power. Power was up at our property. And later that day, so I drove around and on the ATV and helped some people out. There were some people that still didn't have power. Some people didn't have, some people didn't have water. But we were pretty much isolated up here because of all the trees that had fallen on the road. There was several trees. There was areas we could not get through. We could not leave the mountain, but it really didn't matter because the town of Forest City at the time was without power. All the small towns around our mountain was without power. So, that was our situation. Now, one thing that I learned, one thing that Marilyn and I knew was, hey, you know what? We know what's coming. We have a hurricane that's coming our way. We have an approximate time when it's going to hit. And so these are the things we did. First off, we make sure all of our cars never have below 3/4 of a tank of gas. They're always full, or at least 3/4 of a tank full. Marilyn went ahead and set out 2 crock pots and got some food put in those crock pots. And as many of you that use solar understand that if you lose power and you have a crock pot and say you've already have your meal cooked and you put it on the low setting or the keep warm setting, you will use very low wattage. And so that's what we did. We had a couple meals all set to go. Also, if you have alternative energy, if you have say you have a gas or propane generator, you want to make sure that thing is maybe get it tested real quick, make sure everything's running okay on it, get it full of gas, maybe have a little bit more gas on hand just in case, because you never know. And if you have solar power, if you are still tied into the grid, make sure your batteries are fully charged. So when the grid does go down, you don't have 50% battery, but you have 100% battery. And so that's what we did. These are some things that we did. I'm sure there's other things we did too, but I really feel like we did a lot of things right. We took the water outside that we had and filled them up in 5-gallon buckets. So if we lost our plumbing, our septic, We could still use that to pour into our toilets, to flush our toilets. So that's some things that we did. I know there's some other things we did too, but those are the ones I could think of that made more sense. And so this is what I learned, and that is there are too many people, whether they're Christian or not, who do not prepare. Even though they knew something was coming. And it reminds me a little bit of the 10 virgins and how 5 were prepared and 5 weren't prepared. You know, they knew that the bridegroom was coming. They didn't know when. And those that had prepared were ready if the Lord tarried. And I know this isn't really the same thing, but yet in a way it kind of is, because everyone, for the most part, full well knew that this storm was coming. And yet I come to find out that one lady that I was helping down the road from us was totally ill prepared. She had hardly any gas in her tank, and she decided a priority for her was to start her car so she could charge her Kindle so she had something to read. Do you think that's wise? I don't think that's wise. And this woman was a wreck. I don't know. And she didn't, you know, she still had her home. She still had her vehicle. No, she didn't have any electricity, but she has a creek right there, creek right by her house. She could get water if she needed to. She could filter water. So I'm just, Marilyn and I were just flabbergasted at the total inability for people to prepare. And I know that for the first couple of days, I was going and checking on several people, and we want to be able to help people as much as we can. But there also comes a time where you got to give them tough love. You have to give them tough love. If you want people to learn from these things, sometimes they got to struggle a little bit. Okay. Now, I'm only saying that for the people in my situation. I'm not saying that for the people who lost everything, because as Marilyn and I talked about the last couple of days, we could have had our solar and our generator and everything the way we needed to. But how do you prepare for a mudslide that takes your house away? How do you prepare for if you're next to a river and that river comes up and washes your house and all your belongings and everything that you had and all your preparations down the river, totally destroyed? So I'm not talking about that situation. We're going to get to that in a little bit. But for those that have the ability to prepare and can make it through a storm like what we just witnessed, you have that ability to do it. You need to be prepared. You need to be prepared. And I heard something the other day that really rang true with me. And I was telling Marilyn this the other day, that as I look up here with the families that are up here, the question is, are you an asset? Meaning, can you contribute something? Are you self-sustaining for the most part? Or are you a liability? Is there anything, if there's nothing you can do, no skill sets, no preparations, would you consider that an asset or a liability? That person is a liability. And what that ends up doing is it puts a strain on those people who are assets, because I'm going to tell you that if we were out of power, like some of these people in Western North Carolina, and I'm telling you, I'm only focused on Western North Carolina because that's all I know. I know a little bit in South Carolina from some people we know. But we do know that pretty much the area that was the hardest hit of all these areas was Western North Carolina. But hold on just a second here. Another helicopter flying by. And by the way, most of these helicopters that are flying overhead, yeah, they're private helicopters. They're people who want to help. They want to help, and they're sending supplies. They're coming from Lincolnton. They're coming from other areas east of here, and they're flying into the Asheville airport. Donations from citizens and people like you and me, not the powers that be, folks. There's still paperwork that needs to be filled out. And so anyway, there are a lot of sortie runs with helicopters. There are people that are taking pack mules up into the mountains because of the hundreds and hundreds of roads that are washed out. There are people just, I don't think, have this, the concept here of the totality of this loss of homes, loss of life is bigger than what even mainstream media is trying to share. But getting back to our local situation for just a second. So Marilyn and I work at we volunteer at a food bank in our county, and it's one of the largest food banks. And we were there yesterday, and there's a lot of people that come through and they get food and water if they need diapers, things like that. We try to provide as much as we can, and this just shows the resolve and the kindness and the love of the people in this area. So we had a pastor come by, and he had his vehicle. He came in with another guy, and they were pulling the trailer. And on the back of the trailer was a whole bunch of water, whole bunch of bottled water. And come to find out that the pastor lost his home. He lost his home. It was totaled. Has nowhere to sleep. But you know what? He's sleeping in his father's house. He's sleeping at the church. And he said to us, he said, I can't think about my situation right now. He said, there's other people right now. There's other people right now that need my help, and everything will be fine. Everything will be fine with me. I'll be able to, he's going to be all right. And it was just amazing what he was trying to do. And he was actually trying to go to Lake Lure to help the people that have nothing. And once again, the powers that be turned him around, said he can't come in. And so he came back, and he knew about our place, and he dropped that water off so we could get it to other needed people. But there's a lot of people that are helping out. So let's talk a little bit about these hardest hit areas. But before I do, I want to say this. Ask yourself, if the crap hits the fan with what you have right now, today, would you be considered an asset in your home and in your community, or would you be considered a liability? So let's talk real quick about the hardest hit areas. So we have Asheville, and Asheville, even though Asheville is only about 100,000 people, if you look at the surrounding area of Asheville and all the small towns around and everything else, they're close to 300,000 people. And Asheville was underwater. When I used to live in Cedar Rapids, it looked like that, but on a much larger scale. When the waters came in 2008, I think it was 2008 in Cedar Rapids, and I think about 20,000 people lost their homes. So multiply that by at least 5, well, multiply it by 10. I mean, just in that area, many people lost their homes. And this is one takeaway that I don't think people are talking about or understand. These people can't go back to their house. These homes need to be completely gutted. They need to be completely cleaned out. Power still has to be restored. So where do they go? Where do all these people go? You know, there's no hotels in the area. All the hotels in the area are basically destroyed. I mean, if someone is living in Nashville and they can fill me in on that, please put in the comment below. I'd like to know. If you look over here at this picture, I believe this is the town of Marshall. It's a small town, and I watched somebody. He had a video. A guy did a video, and he walked down this town, and he looked over here to the right, and you can see this railroad track is just totally gone. The foundation is totally gone, and it was bad. It was bad. They showed where the height of the river was back in 1916. They made a mark of that, and this storm that hit in 2024 was at least 2 or 3 feet higher than the biggest storm to ever hit Western North Carolina in 1916. This is a typical picture of all these towns in Western North Carolina, anything large. And you can see there used to be homes here. They're gone, swept away. Bridges are out. Several bridges are out. Swannanoa was hit very hard. Lake Lure was hit hard. Areas up around the Marion area were hit hard. Everything up in the Appalachian Mountains. Boone was flooded. But you know, everyday people are stepping up, and you know, those people should be our heroes for what they're doing. These selfless people, you know, the Cajun Navy, a group based out of Louisiana, some people out of Alabama, others. They're flying in on their own dime, bringing in Cessnas and Piper planes, bringing in drones, large drones that are able to fly to places and drop medical supplies, food and water into the backwoods. Trying to think who else, but there's a lot of people who are stepping up to the plate, and you know, God bless them. God bless each and every one of them for what they're doing. And like I said before, they even got pack mules. Pack mules are going up into areas that are hard to traverse. You can't get up there by vehicle. And this is what blows me away. So this current administration has said, we are going to give $750 checks to the victims of this hurricane. But here's the problem. Number one, you got to get on the internet. Do any of these people have the internet? No, they don't. Oh, let's say they get approved and the check is sent to them. Where are they going to send the check to? They don't have a mailbox. They don't. They have nothing. And I'm getting reports right now of people being denied the $750. Oh, you got insurance on your house. You'll be fine. Really? What are they going to do at this point in time when they lost all their food, all their water, all their medications, whatever it may be? They don't have it. And yet, this is what boils my blood. $1.4 billion has this administration spent on illegal immigrants, flying them in and housing them. And yet, our administration, well, it ain't my administration, but this administration has totally neglected the citizens of the United States. And it's a slap in the face. You can go online, you can see several videos where people have applied and they don't receive anything. And basically, you know, each illegal alien is receiving like $2,500 a month or whatever. I mean, it's outrageous. It's outrageous. Then we find out from the Homeland Secretary, I'm not going to say his name, you'll figure it out, says there's no more money. There's no more money, but yet we can spend and send billions of dollars to Ukraine. And we can send, just the other day, we sent $137 million or $157 million. This is what I want you to see right here. $157 million to Lebanon as flood victims continue to suffer in the southeast United States. And I want you to see what the Secretary of State says. The United States is at the forefront of humanitarian response to the growing crisis in Lebanon, announcing nearly $157 million in assistance today. Okay, this is I believe it's yesterday. Okay, a week after the hurricane hit. The money that we don't have, that our administration says we don't have. $157 million in assistance today. We are committed to supporting those in need and delivering essential aid to displaced civilians, refugees, and the communities hosting them. And we can't send hardly anything to this area. And, you know, I thought that we activated like 1,100 National Guardsmen, but right now they're in limbo. They're in limbo because of paperwork, government red tape. I had heard someone say that the 82nd Mountain Brigade was itching to come and help out in the mountains of North Carolina, and they were ordered to step down. There is of the government, I shouldn't have said that word, but it doesn't matter. A government assistance as far as providing Black Hawk helicopters from the helicopters that of the civilian pilots that are flying into these areas. They're saying they've only seen maybe 2 or 3 of them. Of all the hundreds and hundreds of Chinook and Black Hawk helicopters, and only 2 or 3 are in this area. Are you kidding me? And anyway, these things are just really making my blood boil. And I want to say that there's definitely something strange going on in this area. Yeah, I'm glad I brought this article up. I want to say a couple things about the civilian helicopters that are going into areas. I'm going to give you a couple stories, true stories of civilian pilots that are flying helicopters into areas where people need life-saving supplies, like medications, food and water, things like that. And a couple guys flew into an area and rescued an 11-day-old baby and brought that baby back out of harm's way. And the news made it sound like the Florida National Guard went in and saved this baby, when that was totally not true. In fact, if it was the National Guard or some other government, they would have never went in there and that baby would have died. That's number one. There was another instance where, and this article will spell it out. If you ever have a chance, you might want to check out thegatewaypundit.com, turn your TV off and start looking at real news that you can find on the internet. Still, you can still find it, but it's not going to be on here for long if the government gets their way. But the Gateway Pundit does a great job of giving articles. And here, Congressman Corey Mills out of Florida, he says that Joe Biden's visit to North Carolina, when he came in and made his stop, it shut down all the air traffic for 4 hours. 4 hours. So people couldn't fly in and help people that were in need, because the big man the big guy who needs his butt wiped had to come in and check out things and probably look at his watch, and it delayed essential aid getting to people that needed it. And oh, by the way, Western North Carolina is predominantly Republican. I would say probably 70% Republican. And I'm not saying that this is a political shenanigan going on, but hey, it could be. You never know. None of that stuff's off my table anyway. So that's a very interesting article to read. Last I heard, the death toll throughout all the states was 216 people. And I can tell you, if the truth gets out, it is going to be a lot higher than that. We have towns, literally small towns, where 75% of the people are missing. You got to remember, too, when you have all these mudslides, just like an avalanche, people get buried. People get buried, not to be found for a long time. And I have a feeling that when this is over, this is going to surpass Katrina. I mean, we're talking 1,500 plus, probably when it's all said and done. I've talked to a guy who worked EMS, and he said that there were people, when they were doing rescue efforts around the Asheville area, where people were trapped in cars, died in their cars with the seatbelt on, whole family, like a family of four, dead in their car. People who they had to get out of trees 20 feet off the ground that had drowned when the rivers swelled up, and they were caught up in a tree. And whether they drowned by the river or they drowned because the trees drug them under, and here they are dangling 20 feet off the ground, and drowned and died. So there's a lot to do. There's a lot of cleanup yet to do. Many of these towns may never recover. It's just a very heartbreaking, sad situation. So now I want to get to this last part, which is something fishy's going on. I could be wrong. You can go ahead and fact check me on this or not. But when America pulled out of Afghanistan, I believe Afghanistan had lithium mining in certain parts of Afghanistan. I'm not sure, but I find it very interesting that the storm, when it came through North Carolina, there are two important mines that are in Western North Carolina. And one is a lithium mine, which is in Chimney Rock, so the Lake Lure area, which is totally devastated. And so, as far as EV, electrical vehicles go, lithium ion is a huge thing for the battery industry. And what we do know is Chimney Rock, this is the largest lithium mine in the United States, is located in Chimney Rock. And the other place that's very interesting is between Asheville and Marion. It's a town called Spruce Pine, and it got devastated. And it has a quartz mine, and it has a very high grade quartz. Now that quartz is used to make silicone, and the silicone chip industry is used to make the PC chips or the semiconductors. And that also is a huge industry. So, do I believe in weather manipulation? Absolutely. In fact, you can go online. If you do enough digging, you can find patents by the United States with weather manipulation. Was this part of weather manipulation? I don't know. I've been seeing videos where they're showing that. Not 100% sure, but But anyway, I thought just today, I know I've been rambling on and I'm sorry. But I'm really fired up. I am really PO'd. I'm really mad. I just want to give you my takeaway from the storm, give you the timeline, give you how things happen, how things set the stage for the devastation, what our situation was and what we learned. Again, are you an asset or are you a liability? And if you're a liability, figure out how to be an asset. Talked a little bit about the hardest hit areas. There's still a lot of people without power right now. I think there's over 300,000 people yet. And many of these people will probably not get reconnected. If those that are living way back in the backwoods of the Appalachian Mountains, they first got to build the roads. They first got to build the roads to get back to those places. And that could frankly take years before that happens. And I want to make sure to give a shout out to all these people out there, all the civilians, all the people who are being resilient and just doing the humanitarian thing and helping out brothers and sisters by getting in these critical supplies to people, because powers that be aren't stepping up, and it's a shame. It is a literal shame. And again, there's just definitely something strange going on. I'm not going to go into details. Like I said, I just told you about Spruce Pine, and I told you about Chimney Rock. A great place to go to get you some answers on that. This guy, I think, does a pretty good job. I just found him today. If you go to Rumble and type in "and we know," I'll also try and put the link in the description here. The last couple of days have been a very good video, good takeaways from it. So you may want to check in on that. Other than that, hopefully next week, when things get a little bit back to normal, there's still a lot of trees to cut. There's still trees. I'll say one quick thing before I go. Even though we had trees that came down here in this area, and power lines have fallen down or have gotten wrecked, transformers destroyed, et cetera, and definitely out west and northwest and whatnot, we still have a lot of trees that are leaning. And for the next several months, when we get any major windstorms in certain areas, those trees are probably going to fall and take power out. So power, I think, is going to be iffy for the next few months. And I just ask that you just continue to pray for these people who have nothing. Many of them trust in the Lord, which I think is wonderful. Pray that they find shelter before this winter. And if you can continue to support the local charities in the area, do not send money to the mainstream powers that be agencies. I'll say it that way. But if you can find local areas, I know like the Cajun Navy, they're outstanding. They, wow, I can't say enough good things about those people. But just continue to pray for these people. And like I said, I'll try in a couple weeks do a follow-up. But hopefully next week I will get into part 2 of Revelation chapter 9. And hopefully we'll be able to get back on the right track up here. So till I see you again, stay frosty, watch your 6, and continue to pray for these people. Okay? God bless.